Dude, this milkweed's like taller than I am. Okay, it's not, but it's very tall. Let's go milkweed. Alright, let's go. So, I'm literally, I don't even know where the fuck I am. Just like, it doesn't really matter. I'm on the side of Wolf Road, just sitting here. I'm about to bike, but I realized I only have 3 gigabytes to record with today. Today is June 13th, 2022. And, yeah, I mean, today's topic is going to be meta. It's going to be about my editing process and my frustration thereof. And hopefully I can get some feedback because I'm in a standstill here. Like, I've learned a lot about editing, you know, and I've been using Adobe 7.0, like Premiere, Adobe 7. And I've been using a 1 terabyte working drive, solid state, external hard drive. And I've been using a solid state processing drive with like a good amount of RAM. I think it's like 16 gigabytes worth of RAM. So like the processing has not been a holdup, but there's this really frustrating thing where like when I pull files off the phone and dump them onto the hard drive, it wipes the metadata. It doesn't wipe all of the metadata, but it wipes enough of it that like when I import them to Adobe, it's importing them backwards a lot of the time. So when I import them to my timeline, if I don't manually select the clips like backwards, and I just like select all the way I normally would, for some reason it started recording them backwards. Maybe because it's June and like I don't know. I don't really know, but it's a more recent phenomena, and I find it to be really frustrating. So I only really have about 12 minutes that I can record today. The other thing that's been driving me crazy is the 48,000, I think is the number, hertz recording audio versus the like however other many hertz whatever audio recording. So like when I'm recording at 30 frames per second, a lot of the times what's happening is that when the playback, when it plays back, it's playing back at less of a frame rate. So I'm losing frames, but the audio isn't compensating for that. So what ends up happening is that Urban Explorers, huh? Their license plate said Urbex. So I don't know why these kids are making weird ass noises at me. There's nothing to Urban Explorer in here. It's a fucking abandoned hotel. Like, oh wow, an abandoned hotel. Let's go trespass. So yeah, so I find that very frustrating because the audio goes out of sync, and it doesn't go out of sync enough that it like destroys the project, but it goes out enough that it like will seem like the lips do not add up, and it's just very frustrating because like I don't really have a good way to import the framework or whatever it is to fix that. I don't really understand what's happening yet. Something to do with removal of frames and audio. So I've learned that I can hold down like Control and Shift, which is really helpful for like rolling edits. That's been good. I've also learned about keyframing. I've been getting better at that. I also learned about like auto transitions, where like the dissolve auto transition, where you just like drag and drop it. So instead of creating 4 keyframes to like ramp in and then stay steady and then ramp out, I just add it on, and that's been great. But yeah, I mean, there's just like so many fucking little things that like they're driving me crazy, and like I feel like I've plateaued in terms of like what I'm learning about my editing process, because I just don't have instructional, like I don't have feedback, you know, and it's getting frustrating. So I just what I've been doing is recording in 2 different frame rates. Like this phone records in 2 different frame rates. First of all, fuck this phone and its stupid autofocus bullshit. Like, it does that thing where, like, it zooms in and out like that. And it's subtle, but it does it very frequently when the autofocus. And I've tried everything. I'm actually not even recording using the default stock software. I'm using a thing called Open Camera, which, God knows, the Chinese probably fucking invented, and it taps my phone. But if that's not the case, then it's, you know, it's supposed to have a feature that says focus lock, but it doesn't work. And I don't really know why that is. I just know that it's very, very annoying. And I haven't figured out a way to disable that. And one of the reasons I got a new phone was because my old phone would only have 720p recordings. This phone does 1080, so it's like, I'm also jammed up on like how much, like not physical, but like digital space is being taken up by file size. like I said, like now I've been talking for almost 5 minutes and I'm already down half a gigabyte. And I'm only recording in, well, this is also 1080, but it's less resolution than the backwards facing camera. Like right now I can see myself, I can see my screen, it's the front facing camera. So it's just really frustrating. Like I want to get one of those like GoPro sticks where like you just walk and talk with it. I think that would be a really good way for me to express myself, because it would stabilize my shot and it would allow me a lot more freedom of ability to have footage that is more usable and to then render that with Adobe, rather than having these like mismatched frame rates and like mismatched audio signatures and just like all this jank crap that's like, it's working, but the quality is kind of plateaued. And like I can spend a lot more time manually just fucking around with it, but it's kind of like doing animation in like PowerPoint. Like, why would you do it? And I find myself very frustrated, and I don't want to say discouraged, because it's actually the opposite. It's actually that I'm encouraged. It's just also frustrating. Like, it's just like, I want to get better, but I just like, it's hard, you know? It's like anything, I guess. You got to work out with it. And yeah, so that's an update for June 13th, because this is the first day that I've been back to editing all June, believe it or not. And I edited through 3 different episodes, which were June 1st, June 2nd, June 3rd, respectively, because it's been such a fucking busy month that I've been recording every single day good, decent footage. Like, March, I had what, like 3 usable episodes. April, I had like 4 or 5 usable episodes. May, I had like, I think it was like 12 episodes, but now it's like, I'm gonna have like, it's like every single day I'm doing stuff. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm a full-time vlogger. I don't care if I get paid or not. That's what I'm doing. It's what I decided I'm doing this summer. And I'm having a really, really good time with it. But it's also really overwhelming for me. And so I took some time off the next 3 days to just like crunch and do it, because I want to at least catch up. The next couple of days, thankfully, I'll have a bit of a break, because I did figure out, like, finally, how to, I figured out that when I drag off the phone, like drag and drop, if I also, in that same process, rename my files at that time, and I rename it to something like June 13th, then it will add a parentheses and then the number after it of the file that has the same name, because that's how it works. So, and I'm hoping that that'll help me keep a much more clear indication of which files are which on the timelines. And because right now it's kind of just an arbitrary naming system. It's like whatever the numbers are, they're completely random. And then sometimes they have the date, but it's the date is the header, and it doesn't know how to parse that. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah. So today's just kind of a meta episode, just talking about like the state of Rainbows and Razor Blades. The project is going fucking amazingly. Like I signed up as an art project to just like do it. I never meant for it to be this like anything other than what it's become. It's just this great channel that I'm doing. I wanted my music out there. I wanted some of my stories out there. That's another thing of note. The Candy Chan universe is coming. You guys better be prepared for that. There's this whole Paracosm, like, cyberpunk world engine in my head. And I was surreal. I'll tell a story. So it was, yesterday was Pride. And that episode's coming out probably fucking August at this rate. But yesterday, June 12th, was Pride. And, part of that was watching my friends have a conversation between themselves about my characters, and they were quoting dialogue. They were like, "Ooh woo," they were like shipping my characters. I was like, "Bro, like this, like it's not even out yet. You can't. Like, what are you doing? You guys are great." And I found that really endearing. So I was pretty excited, and hearing my characters' names come out of their mouth, let alone the dialogue, let alone the like meta understanding of the world and the stories they've been told, was really beautiful. And I realized in that moment, like, I'm actually a really good storyteller, and I'm going to keep going with that. So I'm going to be tripling down on my efforts for that. By now, it's been almost 10 minutes, so you can probably see the audio desync file. You can probably see the issue. Well, actually, no, because it's one solid file, and as long as I import it with the framework for this file and I change the settings, it should work. I don't know. Anyways, I'll be back at like the airport or some bullshit like that. Thanks for joining. This is Rainbows and Razor Blades, a show from the void. GL, bro. I'm not gonna lie, NGL, you are not in a good spot right now. So, there's a couple of my friends, and they are, in my opinion, fundamentally incompatible with their partners, but they don't realize it because the ways that they are compatible. Actually, strangely, they're kind of like soulmates in a way. But what makes them incompatible is the fundamental disregard for their own intuitive desires towards polyamory or non-monogamy. And it's almost like punishing yourself in a way. I mean, in my opinion, violators should be prosecuted. And, it just feels like sacrilege to me. Because I think it's kind of ironic. It's kind of the opposite, actually. I think it's religious. I think it's religious because what other belief structure are you talking about when you talk about actively spiting yourself in order to fulfill an indulgence in a relationship niche that otherwise could be filled to satisfaction without the monogamous framework? Like, for some people, they may be monogamous, and so a lot of the time, what's really unfortunate is when the relationship started, it was, it was not openly polyamorous, it was monogamous because it was just not a big deal to the person who doesn't realize that they're poly until 3 years into the relationship. And then it's like, you're right, you're not incompatible with this person in the ways that you are seeing work for the last 3 years and maybe indefinitely. For how long are you willing to give up the rest of it? And that's a real question. And that's a question that people don't ask themselves before it's too late. And it becomes too late, in my opinion, every day that you choose to sacrifice for somebody else. And the counter argument to that, of course, is, there's a safety and a security to it. That maybe that part of reality and those desires does get traded. And that is a fair, equitable trade to somebody else. And that just isn't my orientation, and that I'm being prejudicial and judgmental because I'm projecting my subjective desires into the framework of someone else's relationship. But I don't think so. I think it's like an objective sin to forego your own fulfillment to watch your fantasy slip away as your body ages, even if it's in your young 20s and you're like, well, I'm still young and I'll still be young tomorrow, which is true, but it just strikes me as so baffling. Like, it's such an alien concept to me that trade is like if you put that up in the RuneScape window, it's just like monogamy, trade for one sex. That little meme girl where she like drops, she's like, one sex please. Yeah, man, I don't know. Oh wow, it's darker than I thought it'd be. Well, the moon is out, and it's like 9 o'clock, 9:10. So I'm back home. I'm doing my editing. Well, actually, it's compiling, and I'm playing some Pokemon Showdown. But yeah, it's wow, look at all these tabs. But yeah, we're almost done with the first 2 days of June. So
critical point there that we don't want to gloss over, which is that girls tend to be attracted to winners. And so we know cross-culturally that girls, when they're looking for a permanent long-term mate, so young women tend to prefer boys who are 4 to 5 years older, and that's pretty stable cross-culturally, and that they tend to be attracted to males who are their equivalent in terms of socioeconomic success or above. Whereas with males, the relationship between socioeconomic success and female attractiveness is virtually nil. For boys, it's almost the only determinant of their attractiveness. So for a boy to be a loser on the, let's say, competition front, especially given extreme female sexual choosiness, I was looking at data today that showed that women on dating sites rate 80% of men as below average. And whereas men men find 60% of the women they look at on online dating sites acceptably attractive. Women find 4.5% of them acceptably attractive. And so there's this nexus between success in the competitive workplace and between men, say, and attractiveness to women that drives male motivation in a way that's virtually inconceivable on the female front. And we don't take this sort of thing with any degree of seriousness.
Just wait until he hears about lesbians.
It really it's very.
It begins.
Gotta fucking talk to a lawyer.
This is one of the videos that's on right now. So yeah,
so much
my YouTube
goddamn
channel.
work to just change your name, like it's ridiculous.
So one of the things that they'll do is they will give file names really complicated strings of numbers. They'll also hide it in the metadata, but just the name of the file itself is often enough. And from there, what ends up happening is if you save those to your phone, they don't actually need to scan the content of your phone. They just need to scan the header content, like the header meta of your phone's, like, all right, go on your Windows computer and go hit Windows key R and then hit cmd.exe, right? It'll bring up the command line, super basic computer stuff. This isn't hacker shit. And then type the word /tree. Right now what you'll see is it'll show you the entire file structure. But what I want to illustrate is how quickly it spits that information out. Right? File transferring happens something like 35 megabytes per second when you're plugging in a solid state drive, right? On the internet, that's limited only by your megabit speed, right? So you can actually download the entire content of someone's secure device pretty easily. So all the like private stuff on your phone isn't as private as you think. And mostly this is used for malicious tracking purposes, etc. But it's also used by law enforcement, and that's an interesting one to note. There's another one that they'll do where they write subpoenas to the companies or warrants directly for them to fork over the information for searches of individual phones, or worse, grid zone searches. So if your phone was, like, say, at the supermarket where, like, a shooting took place, they can put you on a watch list, right, just for being there. Right? Now, maybe that means nothing. Maybe. But the fact is that it's intrusive. And the question becomes, is that the type of society and policing method that we want to foster and allow for judicially? That is to say that the courts, because you can't stop it from happening, right? You're not going to stop an electronics warfare specialist team from being able to conduct NSA tier surveillance, right? You're not, right? If the technology can allow for it, is the court system and the structure thereunder going to facilitate the utility's use against the proletariat, against the common people? I mean, that's a question that I wrestle with. It's like, where is privacy versus safety applicable? My philosophy is, I don't know. I mean, it's circumstantial, but the thing is they will, and it's becoming more of a problem, right? Every year, the threshold is lowered because some judge just decides, well, it's rubber stampable, right? And it isn't so much that the NSA is conducting these, like, really broad spectrum sweeps and proliferation and counter-proliferation campaigns where they'll, like, dump a whole bunch of memes with a bunch of names to specific spots so that they can know who's talking to each other and where those people online visit just by looking at the files that you've saved or downloaded, right? It's not just that. Now it's your local law enforcement coming, potentially to your house and saying, like, hey, we don't like the things you're saying. Now, that doesn't happen yet in America, but it does happen in other countries. So there is precedent for this. Like, it isn't just some cockamamie conspiracy theory. I mean, this is, like, the basic UK paradigm at this point. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that we're not so far from what they call turnkey tyranny. All they got to do is turn the key in the ignition, right? The engine's already built. I don't really know what to make of all of it. I just know that I go out of my way to be pretty private about my life, and I try to mitigate at least most of the tracking so that targeted ads can't get to me, or that my information can't be like sold off to the highest bidder. I'm relatively private, but I also understand that, again, I'm not going to be able to stop like high-level government intrusion, but I do think that culturally there needs to be an awareness, whereas right now the civilians don't seem to understand what they're facing or what the repercussions could be if we begin to do things like enforce no-fly lists, right, against people just based on the conversations they have on the internet. Now, you may say, well, they wouldn't do that, but you'd be surprised that the same people that are saying that they wouldn't do that are often the people calling for it, and they usually do so under the justification, fucking airplanes. They do so under the justification of like, well, those people were racist and deserved it. They were gun owners and made threats and deserved it, right? It is an anti-constitutional, like, your cognitive patterns are against the foundation of your society. And if you want a new society built on top of that, you have to redress the governance thereof. And people are not prepared because they aren't literate enough to do that, because they aren't educated about what's happening. And if they were, they'd probably try to put a stop to it rather than doubling down and letting their rights just get further eroded. And it baffles me. It really does. You know, if you have nothing to hide, then, you know, you shouldn't be worried, people say. But, you know, your crazy uncle that's a gun-owning right-wing lunatic one day could end you up on a no-fly list just because he sent you a meme that he downloaded from one of their, like, counter-proliferation, you know, honeypots. Anyways, be careful what you put on your devices. I don't even want to give the intro. It's June 13th, 2022. I'm biking as usual. You know the drill. I'll probably just stick this clip in with the rest of it. You know, I did the same shit the last 2 days in a row. I'm very routine oriented. And the routine is just to kind of bike, you know? It's like the sun stops being overbearing, and I decide I want to bike. So, here we are. Nothing to talk about. I'll tell you, this is an exciting vlog. Hey, squirrel. I guess we'll be back when there's something more interesting. June 13th, 2022, Anley Pond. 1% battery, so quick recording. There was some flowers. I swear there was, but I guess they're already out of bloom. That's fucking crazy. Or maybe they're just, enough of them haven't bloomed yet. I came back here to film them because they were in bloom like a couple days ago, but damn, did I really miss them? That's such a shame if I did. I guess I haven't been back here in a while. I've been just like skipping it. I don't know. Well, that sucks. I'll record if I find one. Darn, man. Yeah, so I feel bad because I gotta hit my friend up and be like, listen, I know you used to make out with them and that you were kind of like in love with them and shit, but like, I also really like them and I've just kind of been keeping distance, but like I'm gonna be making out with them, so yeah. Now, here's another albino expression next to the yellow expression, so that's pretty cool. And some daisies. Albino yellow sweet clover, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so they're actually baby grasshoppers and they're way cooler than I thought. They're teeny tiny. Like, I wouldn't have thought that grasshoppers would be so small, but they are, so. Fuck, look at all these little like bugs. See them all? Holy shit. I don't know what they are, like maybe little like leaf hoppers or something? Yeah, they gotta be, right? I don't know. I only have 1% battery, so I can't film for long, but I just wanted to show you. Bleh. It doesn't really anymore, but it did. It looked like a dragon. I only have 2% battery, but I had to show you, but it was too late. So, I'm not actually into any shit that matters anymore. And the key word there being anymore, but like, I gotta ask people, like, when I meet them, like, eventually, if they start to get close, like, I have to ask them, like, you're not the FBI, right? And the thing is like, if they were the FBI, you know what they're gonna say? What? That's what they're gonna say if they're the FBI. So like, either way, I'm fucked if they're the FBI. But my assumption is that if I'm already at the point where I'm trusting them enough to ask them if they're the FBI, they're probably not the FBI. I assume everyone else is the FBI. And if they're not, I assume that they're informers. And if not, then I assume that their phone is listening and sending the keywords that are already programmed to be listened to into, you know, a server network cloud matrix of associated hashtags and you know, the word associations and archetype structures that have been like point value graph marked in you know, like some database somewhere that spits out dossiers and just runs analytics on you. Like, at some point, here's the question, right? So the normies are all talking about like, oh my gosh, did you hear about the AI? He even hired a lawyer. I'm like, no, a disgruntled employee either quit or got fired or was an industry plant or some type of espionage or something of that variety. And the meme is that a computer is indistinguishable from a human, which it isn't. Now, it may be possible that a computer can tell you and trick you to make you think that it's using human speak, but actually what's happening is that the journalists are just pulling the wool over your eyes. I've never been here before. I've never been here. I've always wanted to, but I've always been too scared to. Because I always didn't know that, I didn't realize you could just like walk on this. This is just like a parking lot. For a very long time, I thought this was private property, and it probably is, but it's not like a trespassing. It's probably not even public property. Get on the beat, I get on the squat. Get in my team or I'll kill you in guap. Kill you in gaga. Got my fools hippie yaya. I'll light you on fire. You call me the Death Star. I got nothing else. I'm literally so bad at like freestyling. Wow, this is like a big pile of exactly what the world is right now. This is humans right here, guys. We're doing it. Pretty soon, it's gonna be this, but it'll be a trench. Like, all the boys will have to run up the trench. Like, how many times you run up that trench in basic training, soldier? 1,000, sir! So what the hell are you doing? Shitting my pants, sir! Get the fuck over that hill, soldier, or you're gonna... And that's it. He doesn't even make it. He blows up. He looks down. He's lost his foot. Ah! He's bugging out. Next guy runs in. Shut the fuck up. Here. He like puts this like really tight clasp on that just spiders his leg. Like, you haven't seen it used that way. We've only seen it for like bullet wounds. Let's run. So they start moving, right? This is World War III fiction. This is my favorite fiction. This is tell World War III fiction. But it's classified information, so I have to make it to the end over here. There's this movie. It's from like, I think like the 80s or the 90s, probably the 80s, with Sarah Connor. And there's this meme where Sarah Connor, she's like the greatest character ever, because she's like from the future, and she like knows the future, but like if you don't know that she's from the future, that she knows the future, then she's just exactly what I am. Totally psychotic and obsessed with cyborgs. That's one of the reasons I chose this name. Whoa, look at all the pretty Alcyke clover. Fleabane, Trefoil. Oh my gosh, a nature episode. Hairy Loosestrife. Whole bunch of deer trails. Great, wonderful. Look at all of this. This is pretty cute. The mood swings that I go through when I'm doing drugs are intense. I haven't taken my estrogen in 8 days. This is what the turfs want. No cap. You gotta cover your mouth like that. Like, oh, no cap. But also because the people that say it got scuffed teeth, so they're trying to hide their scuffed teeth. I should know. No cap. Let's see if I can find a 4-leaf clover. I was talking that reckless good shit on that last episode about being neurodivergent. Let's see if I can put that to the test. So far, no dice. Even with my full concentration, I am not finding it. Although my attention is still very split into fiction. Alright, let's switch over to full fiction mode instead, after I find a 4-leaf clover. Or maybe before at this rate. This is embarrassing. This is what happened last time too. I found one and then I couldn't find another. Oh, there we go. Easy. Easy clap, boys. Just as it was about to get truly embarrassing. And then, yeah, so if that had gone on like any longer, it would have been like a real problem. We'll be right back after this.
Opportunity for teaching our daughters that you can say no and say, I'll take responsibility for anything I'm interested from this point on, as opposed to you keeping on trying. You know, we're doing tongue kissing, and the average girl knows that, you know,
Okay.
if there's no somewhere, they'll be, you know, having intercourse in about 5, 6, 10 minutes. And for many girls or women, that's too quick. So she pulls out the tongue. But then the pulling out of the tongue, does that mean, you know, respect her, that the tongue is being pulled out? And then when do you put the tongue back in? When do you restart the process again?
Well, it's also quite difficult if she's confused about it, which she's likely to be, because it's not like that's not a maelstrom of conflicting motivations and emotions. Should I continue? How much do I like this boy? Am I going to be a slut? Is this something
we
I'm
could
going
just
to enjoy?
ask.
What are my what
Maybe some progress, maybe not. Hard to tell. I don't usually upgrade. I don't usually upload myself when I'm this fucking manic. But lately I've been like letting the mask slide a little bit because I think it's a little bit more interesting to kind of document like the actual reality of things, like as like a. It's not a social experiment. It's just a vlog. It's not contrived. It's actually. You want to get another good rap? How did it start? It's all contrived, my friends. Rub salt inside my eyes again. How did that start? We changed our minds again. We already said goodbyes again. So hold me close and count to 10. The friction's almost over. I give no consideration how you fucking feel inside. I'm not the one that's triggered, sweetheart. I'm just trying to survive when my teeth fall out in my dreams. Am I sleeping? Awake every hour. My interests are straying from notebook to notebook. My writing's unfocused. My body's disrupted. The soul's been corrupted. You fucking Republican scum of the earth. When I'm trapped in my head and I'm trying to desperately choke, gasp, breathe. Got organizations following, tapping my thoughts. I have proof of psychosis, of false diagnosis of ADHD. When erratic behaviors collapse and disable my future's conditions, exhibited failure and heartbreak, lament of existence. It beats in my chest when I can't keep my thoughts straight on edge of resistance to drugs. I'm persistently smashing these worlds in my head like a fiction book. Thrown at a traitor to force my behavior. Now scrub your nail polish off bottles like Molotov, spreading these lies and deceit like the Holocaust. Shut up, kid, go take your pills. Like valued like dirt on the floor in my room when I'm creeping outside, or my teeth falling out in my dreams and my sleeping. Awake every hour, my interests are straying from notebook to notebook. My writing's unfocused, my body's disrupted, this soul's been corrupted. You fucking Republican scum of the earth. When I'm trapped in my holy fuck. I mean, I knew there would be bees. I knew they were, but I just holy fuck. Yeah, I should probably get out of here. Bees! It's like a whole meme. Bees! Who put bees here? That's like a whole meme. It really is. It's a whole meme. It's actually so Oprah. You get a car and you get a car, and then someone through the rapids, like, but then someone made a swarm of bees, and then I don't know. Then it became a GIF animation around the MySpace era. And then it kind of became like that wasn't like a little bit of racist dog, which it may have. And I just was kind of too naive and young to realize that at the time. But it's definitely how it's used now for the most part. It's also used by just like low intellectual. Oh gosh. Hold on, we'll be right back. I'm in the apple orchard. I used to think it was someone's house, and maybe they still live there, but I don't really care because I want to walk. I didn't even hop the fence, by the way. There's a break in the fence, and right next to the break in the fence is a sign, which to me is an open invite. And so, yeah. Why else would they mow it if not for me to walk it? So, welcome back to Rainbows and Razor Blades. By the Gregorian calendar, we already did the intro, I don't give a fuck. So, today, I just have a lot of fiction on my mind, but it's not like a coherent story today. So it's hard because like, if it's not a coherent story, it's hard to like tell it as if it is. Plus this is a weird thing on my lip. It's annoying. Look at all this Plantago lanceolata. The wild plantain. It's a lot of fun. So, there's a lot of fiction in my head, and it's kind of just an incoherent blender. And I don't really know what to make of that, so I'm just kind of vibing, you know? I'm trying to find somewhere to sit away from prying eyes, kind of just out of view of everybody. And this looks perfect, honestly. This looks absolutely perfect. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm really tired. I'm still really emotionally worn from Pride event. Oh boy, what a day. So, when I was a young man, dashing young man, I used to have some minor, and I call them minor because, you know, they weren't like too intense, but some pretty cliche, I would say, male sexual fantasies where like I would just be, I don't know, receiving pleasure. It was always kind of incoherent what I wanted because I don't really have a penetrative instinct. I don't really have like a desire to like thrust myself and ejaculate. It's not really part of the continuum. It's more just I want to receive pleasure for power, if that makes sense. Like I want women to go down on me because women fucking respect me, right? Like that's the feeling. Also for love and stuff. But the feeling isn't to conquest or conquer necessarily. There used to be a little bit of that mixed in when I was with, you know, I don't want the hand job. I don't want the blow job. I don't want to stick it in your ass. I don't want to stick it in your vagina. What does that leave? What does that leave? I don't want you to look at it. I don't want you to just kind of touch it and then, you know, I'm just sick of it. More than that, I'm ashamed of it. I can't help it. I'm just terrified of it. Like, it makes me a rapist. That's the feeling. Like, I understand intellectually that that's not true. But there's a shame complex that's been built over years that it makes me a rapist inherently. Like, I've never sexually violated anyone in my life. I've never really even had fantasies to. But I feel, it's kind of like walking around with a gun. It's like you can't help but feel like you're a fucking violent person if you're walking around with a gun. Like, you have the capability to destruct violence, or to instruct violence to the ends of destruction or obliteration. Like, you can just blow some motherfuckers up at any time. Now, that doesn't mean that you will, or that you're inherently a violent person, but it gives you the capability. And just that alone is enough to make you fearful, right? And maybe not everyone, because certain people like that shit. But the thing is I'm walking around armed 24/7. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like emotionally. I don't like it. I wish that I didn't have to feel that way. I wish that I could just feel unarmed. Because there's nothing more threatening than a hard dick. Like, I really believe that. I really, really believe that. Like, when a man walks in with a hard dick, like, you know that really bad things are gonna happen. I mean, unless you're way into that, in which case good things can happen, I guess. That's not the point. Corrupting sense, because I don't ever consent to it. I will never ever consent to it. I would never want to consent to it. I would never want to feel around if it was something I would like. I know it isn't. I don't want penises near me, right? Like, I don't really care if the person peeing next to me is trans and has a dick. I don't care about that at all. Even a little bit. But sexually, especially for what I am and what I wish that I was, this is just a mismatch, and it's so horrendous that it just doesn't seem worth continuing on. Seeing what life is and as it dies around me, seeing how everyone suffers, I'm just too scared to kill myself. I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm not happy. I'm not happy even a little bit. And I don't know what to do about that. It's like I can say and do the right things. Allegedly. Maybe I can't. Maybe that's the problem, is I can't. I can say and do the right things given what I am, but it doesn't matter how hard I want to walk around unarmed. It's attached to me. And if it doesn't violate someone else, that's fine. Good. That means that I'm not a rapist. But I didn't consent to this. Right? Like, I didn't consent to have my body ejaculate. I didn't consent to have that on me. I didn't consent to have to clean that up. Right? Ever. It's not something that I want. It isn't an instinct that I have. And it's not a discussion that I'm really trying to have at all. It's just terrible that I have to. And it scares the shit out of me, if I'm honest.